In our yesterday session, we discussed about how to create a custom table and how to maintain entries in a custom table. And then I provided one assignment also on the same. So we created this custom table and we maintained some entries in it, and by manual entries. Initially, when we don't have any data in this table, we cannot create entries directly. We create entries from utilities, table content, and create entries. But once we created entries, at least one entry is available in the table. From there onwards, what we can do, we can create entries by using this create button. Okay, so 1003 item 10 created on can be given today's date 03, and then material M1, quantity 150, pieces, price 200 USD. Same. So like this you can. So if you want to edit also, you can edit by going to edit button. You can edit your content too. Okay. So when you are editing the content, it is not possible to edit the key fields. Okay, bill number, bill item number are the key section for this table. That's why these two columns are under different color and remaining columns are under different color. Okay, you cannot edit the key these key fields, but remaining fields you can edit it by going to this edit button. Okay, that's it. So now we go to the next topic. What is our next topic? Our next topic is how to create a custom data source on table, on our custom created table. Because in our earlier sessions, when we are discussing about the data flow, as I said, in the data will be available in the R3 system. Okay, the data will be available in the SAP ERP system or whatever system on the left hand source system. And in order to bring this data from this source system into our target BW system, we must use use of this data source concept. Okay, so now we are going to learn how to create a data source on the tables in a SAP ERP system or R3 system. Okay, and then how to bring this data source into BW side, and how to replicate data from source into target system. We are looking into it. So when we are learning this concept, we are not learning full-fledged concept of this data source, but a partial concept we are learning. And after few days of classes, again I will give you the complete overview of this data sources, because so much concept is there on data source. But as of today, since we are still on the beginning of the BW course, we will learn what is required as of now. Okay, so now the content here is we have one table in our SAP ERP system, GBill book, and using this table, how to create a data source, we are looking into it. Okay, so to create a data source in BW, what was the T code we must use? To create a data source in BW, we go to transaction called RSO2. Okay, RSO2. So now I'm going to my SAP system. I'm taking new session /o and then RSO2. So this is the maintain generic data source. If you see here, create, change, display, three different options are there. Now we are going to create a new data source. Okay, so now what we are able to understand from this screen, when we creating a data source can be of three types: transactional data, master data attributes, and text. Okay, so you know what is master data, but this text also part of master data only. Okay, so as of now, forget about the second and third option. Now since our table which we created in the ECC is a transactional table, so on top of transactional table we are going to create a transactional data source. Okay, using the first option. So before creating a data source, what are required? So before directly starting creating it, first let's go create one technical name, make a note of what will be the technical name of your data source, and the description, and based up what is the source for your data source. Okay, means whenever we're creating a data source, we must create this data source on top of something, you know. As of now, that is nothing but table. Okay, source is nothing but table. So what is the table name? The table name which we are using now to create our data source is GBillBook. Okay, this is the one. And our data source technical name, since it is a data source, I am giving a naming convention called GDS. GDS is nothing but the data. DS means data source in my point of view. Okay, G is the custom, you know, custom naming convention. G, all the custom objects will created using the G. Okay, so I'm giving G here, and then DS is a data source. And then, you know, what I'm going to do is whatever objects I'm going to create, either it may be data source, table, info object, any BW object, to, you know, to identify it is belongs to my, like, you know, my object, because in this system many people come and create their own objects. So one, it is difficult for you to, you know, to search for your own objects. So if you have some pattern for your objects, then it is easy for you to, you know, remember. So that's why, for that reason, what I'm giving, I'm giving SR. SR is my, you know, under my name I'm taking first two characters, so that it will be acts as my naming convention. So GDS, DS is for the data source, followed by SR, you know, to identify my objects, and then followed by, you know, free text. Generally, you know, what happens here, you can give, whenever you join in a project, if you want to create a data source, generally each project has their own, you know, naming convention document. What it was? Naming convention document. So in this particular document, they will mention the rules and regulations how to create your technical name. How I am telling now, G is my custom name, DS is for data source, underscore my keyword, and something I'm telling, right? In the similar fashion, for each project, they will let you know how to formulate your technical name. So you must follow those guidelines whenever you're creating your technical names. It is not correct to give on your own, but you must follow the project standard naming conventions. Okay, so now since it is a demo system, I am following GDS for data source, SR is my keyword, and then I am followed by the table name. Because I am creating this data source on top of this table, I am directly giving the table name here. Okay, and then data source description. So this table description is nothing but, you know, BillBook. Okay, so what description I am going to give? Data source on BillBook table. Okay, so this was my free description which I wish to give. Similarly, you know, it's up to you how you want to give this description on here. So there will be no guidelines what will be the description of a table is, but in the naming convention document, they will guide you how to create technical names. They won't tell, you know, provide description in this format, something like that. I never seen anywhere. But in the naming convention document, they will provide you guidelines how to formulate your technical name of an object, whether it is a table, data element, domain, you know, data source, or info object, any providers in the BW side. So now I have my technical name ready, description ready, and I know I need to create it on table. So I am good to start with creation of a data source. I am going to RSVO2. I am selecting the transactional data radio button and providing my technical name of the data source, and then clicking on create button. So, and now after create, this is the second screen what we will get. So here there are some mandatory things are there. Okay, so wherever you see this, you know, this checkbox, you see there is a box with tick mark. These are nothing but mandatory fields. Without providing anything, if you try to save here, system doesn't allow. If I click on save button, you see I am getting a red color mark here. Fill out all required entry fields. So all the, you know, these are nothing but text boxes. The text boxes with this, you know, tick mark, nothing but those are mandatory text boxes. Similarly, whenever you are filling any online application, there will be some mandatory boxes to be filled, right? Same way here also. Now, first thing is application component. What is an application component? Okay, so what is an application component means? So if I go to a transaction code called RSA5, this is the business content. Okay, what SAP, as I said in my earlier classes, SAP is providing so many data sources for our, you know, usage. which are ready-made. So which helps us in reducing the development efforts. So here if you see on this SAP is the root node. Under this one there are many sub nodes are there. These are all nothing but one application components only. Okay, generally under SAP R3 and bills comes under sales department, right? So if I go to here something SD, which is sales and distribution, and then and then under SD there is a SDIO. So you can give this SD. SD is the application component you can give. Okay, if I go to F4 help here by pressing on this zoom button, it will go to F4 help. Here also you can see same kind of similar tree here. So SAP, if I expand SAP R3, under R3 I am selecting SD. So SD is my application component, means this data source falls under which kind of data category, simply. Okay, so it is related to billing, means related to sales, so I am giving my sales category. Okay, and then short description for my data source. I already make a note of what will be my data source description, so copy it and provide it on the long description, short description, and medium and short. You see short description, medium, long. So 20, 40, 60 is the max length allowed for each of it. Okay, short description, it allows maximum 20 characters. So that's why it is after 20 characters system stopped, remaining it was truncated. So if you want full, what you can do, you can write like this: DS for bill book table, not for on bill book table. You see E also not coming because it is already exceeded 20 characters, I guess. To make it more possible, I can use hyphen here. That's it. Okay, I provided my short description, medium description, long description. So after this, now when coming to data source creation, a custom data source can be created using either one of these three: extraction from view, extraction from query, extraction by function module. Since we are on the beginning of this course learning, we are not talking about the second and third option. We are currently talking about only extraction from view option. Okay, so for each option we have three sections here. Like first section is for the first option, extraction from view, and extraction from SAP query is for the second option. At any point of time, only one section is enabled, means the remaining two are grayed out. For example, if I select the third one, you see third one was enabled, check boxes, you see I can see the text box enabled, and the first option was disabled, graded out. So now we are going with extraction from view. So first option was enabled. Now here you see what is asking here. Here it is asking to provide either a view or a table name. Okay, since I am going to create my data source on top of a table, I am copying my table name and providing here my table name, and then press enter. Okay, so database table is a local object, long text information. You see here it is an information button but not a error message. Click on OK and then click on save. You see information button you can ignore, click on enter or click on OK. So you see now it is asking create object directory entry. So when we creating this particular data source, it is asking to provide package. I am not going to create any package. I am using local object. Okay, local object means it comes under temporary package. Simple. A package is nothing but it is kind of folder. Folders. Packages are nothing but a folder kind of structures. For example, if you have some documents and you want to store it on your hard disk, if you don't know under which folder you want to keep, generally what you do, okay, keep it in desktop. Later we think of where to keep this document. Right? In the same way, whenever we creating objects, if we don't know where exactly we need to keep our object, then we always go for local object, which is nothing but temporary, for package, temporary package. Okay. So if you know exactly under which package you want to keep, you can select it or you can write it. If you don't know, we go for local object, which is nothing but temporary object. Okay. And then click on save. Now this screen will come. So it is asking, in this screen, we need to select selections. So for a data source, when we try to execute a data source, simply, to make this understand a little easy, this is the table. If you want to see the content of this table, you are going to this contents tab. Correct. In the contents tab, what is happening? Is it directly showing the output, or is it giving some selection screen for you? Initially, system will try to provide some selection screen to you. If you provide some selections, it will show output for the selection only, or if you don't give any selection and click on execute, it will show all data. Okay. For example, there is a column called material. Here, if I give M1 and then click on execute button, system will show only M1 material information from this table. This table may contains a number of records, but only M1 data only will come into my output. So that is called selection screen. Okay, you see here also it was written selection screen. In the same way, when you creating a data source, if you want to keep any selection screen for it, then you can select those fields here by selecting the checkboxes. You can create selection, whichever checkbox you selected, those columns comes under selection screen, remaining won't come. So I am giving bill number and I am giving material and if possible created are also. These three I am giving, I want these three to be my part of my selection screen. Okay, and then click on save button. That's it. You see, data source has been successfully saved. When you navigating through screens, if any message, all the information messages, warning messages, error messages will be displayed on the bottom, either bottom or sometimes any other place. We need to keep an eye on it. It is green means it is successful. Data source has been saved successfully. Okay, so now done. So if whenever we reach to this point, we are done with creation of data source. Now how to verify this data source? Now go to /o RSA3. What was the T code? RSA3. RSA3 is nothing but extractor checker. RS, simply to validate your data source, whether it is working correctly or not. So what is your data source name? My data source name is GDS, this one. Copy this name and provide it here under data source. As of now, if you see on my selections, nothing is showing currently. Whenever I provide my data source here and press enter, then you see whichever fields you selected for selection, those will come in the selection screen. So if you give some selections here, and then click on extraction, only the select as per the selection data will come into your output, or else it will fetch all data. As of now, I am not giving any selection, simply clicking on extraction. So when you click on extraction, see system fetched 4 records. It is an information box where it is showing 4 data records got selected. If you click on OK, then you see there is some extra options came here. By going to ALV grid display, you can see your extracted data. So what is happening when you click on extraction? This particular data source is going to the table, because you created this data source on top of table. It is going to this table and fetching your data from this table and displaying it on your screen, output screen. Okay, and remember here, very important, here you given the table name, but you see below there is an extract structure created for it. This was created by SAP, means this was created by system, not by you. Okay, so we will give only the table name and then click on save button. Then system will create one extract structure for this data source. Okay, so now because it needs structure is part of it, so system will create it. You don't need to think of it. Okay, and then if you go to output, you can see output like this. 4 records came. For example, if I am giving my material as M1 selection and then again click on extraction button. Now 2 records only fetched from the source for this selection. If I go to ALV grid display, then I can see M1 only here. You can come back. And again, until unless you come completely out of the screen, this data will be saved under this buffer, ALV grid buffer. Okay, that's it. This is the how to create a data source based upon a custom table or standard table, whatever it may be, and then that's it. It's a simple data source without any, functionalities called delta pointer and all. Okay, so the delta pointer and all later we look into it, not at this point of time. Okay, so once this data source is created, now copy this data source name. All the created data sources can be seen under RSA 6. Okay, what was the T code which I said now? It is RSA 6. If RSA 3 is working perfectly, then you are done with the creation of data source and you can say that it is working perfectly. And why we are going to RSA 6? Just to see whether it is coming here or not, I am going here. RSA 6. I'm selecting second one. Only one will come because of our own system. It is showing 2. So this is the data source. Now what happened is why I came to here. So you created this data source and later, what happens if you want to perform some changes to this data source, then you can come to RSA 6 and can do changes by using change data source like this. Okay, because it is opened here. From RSA 6, you can, change your data source by by removing some of the selection fields, something like this you can do. Or from RSVo2 also you can do this change, because RSVo2 is where we have option to create, change and display. If you go to display, it will show in the display mode. And if you go to change mode, it will show data in the change mode. Okay, so that's all about the creation of custom data source by using a table. Okay, I'm stopping recording here. 1 second.